You won't believe what broke first, Dany's turkey knife or Bill's common sense. At long last, someone convinced Bill to do something about his hair. Those rogue strands defying gravity were more distracting than his romantic entanglements, which is saying something. Meanwhile, the plot thickens with Hayley, who seems to be moonlighting as a low-rent femme fatale. One can only assume the poisoning of Bill will be the scandal that finally rips the mask off her carefully curated Stepford wife routine. Once Bill ends up in the hospital, because of course he will, Dany, ever the loyal ex, will drop her new life faster than Hayley drops her fake charm and be at his bedside before the IV finishes dripping. Their inevitable reunion? Practically written in the stars, or at least in this week's script. And then there's Malone, a man so slippery he makes oil look dry. Whether he's going to arrest Hayley or flirt with her first is anyone's guess. When it comes to Malone, danger doesn't knock, it smirks. As for Dany and Andre, they're currently starring in a rom-com no one asked for, but everyone's watching. Their Thanksgiving was less culinary success and more disaster dinner theater, capped off perfectly when Andre's knife broke while trying to carve what was presumably charcoal masquerading as turkey. It was absurd. It was endearing. And yes, it was hilarious. For once, a couple on this show managed to be funny without being insufferable. Of course, Hayley's sudden allergy to the Dupree family gatherings raises eyebrows. This is the same woman who once couldn't stay away from them, practically posing as a trophy wife at every event. Now she's upset that Bill invited her to Winterfest with Dany in attendance? How tragically transparent. The shine of public adoration is wearing off, and Hayley is revealing her true colors. Unfortunately, Bill remains blissfully oblivious. One might suggest he remove his rose-colored glasses, or just open his eyes for once. Elsewhere, we had the curious case of a gossip relay involving Eva, Isaiah, and a conveniently timed father-son brawl. He tried to tell Eva. She brushed him off. So naturally, he ran straight to Leslie. Priorities, clearly. Speaking of family drama, one wonders why Vanessa's children didn't bother coming home for Thanksgiving. No explanation given, just a convenient opening for her to share a holiday with Joey. A budding romance or a convenient pairing? Time will tell. Their chemistry exists somewhere between a spark and a shrug. Then there was the awkward social ballet when Leslie mentioned prior plans. Ted's face practically screamed, "Thank God, I wasn't inviting you anyway." And let's not forget Bill, who wore the classic, supportive father barely tolerating small talk expression, while his daughter enthusiastically recounted her day. A masterclass in feigned interest, and yet, amid the chaos, nothing quite stole the show like that broken knife at Dany's Thanksgiving table. A single, perfect symbol of this entire messy, charming, ridiculous ensemble, trying to cut through tradition with tools clearly not up to the task. They're not actors, they're brand ambassadors in disguise. Here's how Beyond the Gates turned drama into a shopping spree. It takes a special kind of brilliance, or perhaps audacity, for a show to seamlessly blend soap opera melodrama with product placement so aggressive it could double as a shopping channel. Beyond the Gates doesn't promote products. It integrates them into the storyline with all the subtlety of a flashing neon sign. Forget commercials. Why waste ad space when the characters themselves are walking billboards? Speaking of characters, few seem particularly invested in being present. Bill, for instance, oscillates between looking physically unwell and spiritually vacant. Boredom is his most compelling emotion. Meanwhile, Joey continues to cling to the narrative of grief, though viewers are left wondering when exactly Vanessa was permitted to mourn. Blink and you'll miss it, if it ever happened at all. Then there's Dany, suddenly auditioning for the role of model housewife with a spatula in hand. It's cute. Forced, but cute. Isaiah's performance, however, is another matter entirely. His line delivery evokes the energy of a hostage reading from cue cards. There's no immersion, no nuance, just words recited like ingredients on a cereal box. He doesn't melt into the role. He clunks through it like refrigerated margarine. Ted, ever the misguided peacekeeper, continues his campaign to mold a modern-day Brady Bunch out of chaos and betrayal. His efforts to bond Kat and Eva are not just futile, they're tone-deaf. Eva, at least, is contributing something to the plot, while Leslie remains a masterclass in manipulative inertia. Watching Ted pine for familial harmony while forcing his estranged daughter to play nice with his love child borders on satire. Kat, naturally, wants no part of this Thanksgiving kumbaya fantasy. And who could blame her? Her reaction to the holiday invitation, somewhere between disgust and disbelief, was the only emotionally honest moment in the episode. Meanwhile, Ted's jealousy at seeing Leslie with Malone only reinforces his inability to manage the mess he's made. Kat is not, contrary to popular belief, the gaslighter in this scenario. That title belongs squarely to Eva, who has skillfully cast herself as a victim while mimicking Leslie's manipulative tactics. Ted's insistence on merging these fractured relationships fails to acknowledge that Kat's life was detonated by his indiscretions. She is a victim, whether he's ready to admit it or not. Then there's Thomas, apparently forgiven for his tryst with Eva. One assumes Kat's amnesia is plot-driven, not character-based, because let's be clear, if he slept with your sister, he's probably not done browsing the family tree. And while we're unpacking unresolved drama, how long must viewers wait for the writers to expose Leslie, Joey, and Hayley'S criminal exploits? Must we continue pretending that this parade of misdeeds is just another Tuesday? The moral compass of this show spins like a roulette wheel. As for standout performances, that's a difficult crown to award when half the cast is either phoning it in or delivering monologues like automated voicemail messages. The true stars aren't acting, they're surviving the script. Beyond the Gates isn't just a show, it's a cautionary tale about what happens when plot takes a back seat to product, and character development is sacrificed on the altar of forced redemption arcs. And still, we watch, not for the realism, but for the wreckage. Kat's not the villain, she's the only one making sense, but the writers clearly didn't get the memo. The writers of Beyond the Gates seem determined to toy with Dany's storyline, as if she's not already a walking masterclass in chaos containment. Dany, ever the unapologetic savage, is once again being set up, this time dangling in emotional purgatory while Andre stands poised to sprint into Ashley's arms the moment the camera pans away. The chemistry between Dany and Andre could ignite a grill, but anyone paying attention knows exactly where this is headed. The writers might as well cue the dramatic kiss with Ashley now and save everyone the suspense. Meanwhile, the Thanksgiving-themed episode promises less gratitude and more grudges. Enter Eva, extending an olive branch to Kat, or so she claims. If peacemaking was truly the goal, why is Tomas still lounging comfortably in Eva's corner? Maintaining ties with the man at the center of the betrayal doesn't exactly scream reconciliation. It's not a peace offering, it's a slap wrapped in a smile. Kat, unsurprisingly, is on the verge of a full-blown breakdown once Vernon's true colors are finally revealed. And frankly, who could blame her? She's been emotionally eviscerated, and yet somehow, the chorus of criticism remains fixed on how she needs to do better. Fascinating, really, how a woman betrayed by nearly everyone around her becomes the villain for refusing to move on at the speed of plot convenience. As for Eva, let's examine the resume of wrongdoing. Beyond enthusiastically reclaiming a cheating boyfriend, she's also managed to keep quiet about her mother's hand in Laura's demise. A convenient silence cloaked in the usual excuses. Raised on lies, trained in revenge, blah blah, inherited trauma. One could argue forgiveness is possible, and indeed, the script could have steered in that direction had the writers chosen. But let's not pretend Kat's refusal to play along is some sort of character flaw. Forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation, and certainly not one owed on a production schedule. Then there's Ted, the ever-crumbling patriarch. His attempt to play doting father to Eva would be more noble if it didn't come at the cost of dismantling his relationship with Kat. Inviting Leslie, of all people, to the Thanksgiving table? Bold move, Ted. Bold, and stunningly tone-deaf. Fortunately, Kat has plans with Tomas, and if that means escaping Ted's pitiful attempts at blended family fantasy, then she should count it as a win. Eva, ever consistent in her lack of timing, finds herself on a date with a man clearly interested, only to bring up Kat mid-conversation. The lip lock that followed was less a romantic high point and more of a sex interruption. Nothing kills the mood like unresolved family trauma. And let's not forget the Dany-Bill dynamic. Anita warned her, no man sidles up to an ex without a motive. Bill's reaction to Dany's marriage news all but confirmed it. Whatever he's selling, he's not just offering friendly congratulations. As for Malone, he knows exactly who Leslie is. The question is, when will he say it out loud? At this point, Kat and Eva need to end their Cold War. Ted is their father. That's not changing. No one's going anywhere, no matter how many impassioned monologues are delivered in candlelit rooms. Time to accept it. And maybe, just maybe, stop weaponizing every holiday dinner. They gave us the perfect love interest for Kat, and then handed him to the wrong sister. What were they thinking? Ah, the grand betrayal of Queen Kat, an injustice so glaring it practically deserves its own subplot. One moment, she's being gently nudged by the ever-wise Jacob to consider that maybe, just maybe, Nomas, yes, that's Tomas, but the nickname fits like a glove, isn't her match. The next, she's tangled in a janitor's closet, rediscovering her libido with the very man she was allegedly incompatible with. Let's revisit the setup. Kat, poised for character growth and presumably more compelling romantic prospects, was heading toward a promising arc. Enter Isaiah, a reformed hustler with the grit, charm, and potential complexity to match Kat's own layered persona. Viewers, particularly those still holding out hope for intelligent writing, assumed he was being introduced for her. Logical, narrative-friendly, emotionally satisfying. But then came the pivot. Rather than developing Kat and Isaiah into the power duo they could have been, the writers tossed Isaiah to Eva, because apparently the only qualification for pairing in this universe is mutual vanity and the ability to comment on each other's hotness like it's a personality trait. Kat, meanwhile, is thrown back into the hollow arms of Nomas, a character so emotionally wooden, it's a wonder he doesn't sprout leaves mid-scene. His chemistry with Kat is negligible, his motivations transactional. Pleasing Bill and climbing the ladder, anyone? And his acting best described as aspirational, if we're being generous. This pairing does neither party any favors. Kat looks increasingly desperate, clinging to a relationship that is equal parts career move and trauma response. And Tomas continues to flounder through scenes as though he's confused about which genre he's in. Romantic drama? Corporate thriller? High school play? Even Eva's trajectory feels cheapened. Her original connection with Tomas was grounded. Shared books, genuine intimacy, even a spark of mutual understanding. Now she's paired with Isaiah for reasons that appear to orbit around surface-level attraction and little else. It's all muscle and no meat. Of course, this is Soapland, where narrative whiplash is a sport and character arcs are rewritten with the same urgency as weather reports. Sweeps Week is the perennial scapegoat for these creative betrayals. But the problem here isn't the pivot, it's the lack of follow-through. If the goal was to stir viewers, congratulations! The waters are stirred, and patience is thinning. Kat deserves a storyline worthy of her complexity, not a pity romance with a career-climbing block of wood. Perhaps there's still hope, maybe in the form of Derek's firefighter friend, or literally anyone who can emote without looking like they're reading cue cards. Until then, we mourn what could have been. Kat and Isaiah, two phoenixes rising from narrative ash. Instead, we get Pinocchio Mass and Closet Acoustics. How tragic. Ted is the real villain of this show, and it's not even close. Monday's episode, 11/24, delivered yet another stunning showcase of Ted's uncanny ability to weaponize entitlement. Apparently, the man believes that asking Kat, yes, the daughter he lied to and betrayed, to play happy families with Eva is a reasonable Thanksgiving request, because nothing says healing like forcing your injured child to smile through turkey with her betrayer. Charming. Let's start with logistics. This isn't a tale of two cities. Eva and Kat live within the same magical town where everyone seems to apparate from place to place. If Ted wanted to see both daughters on Thanksgiving, all it would take is the brainpower to schedule a lunch and a dinner. Married couples manage this dance of diplomatic dining with in-laws every holiday season. But no, Ted wants it his way, on his timeline, for his comfort. He isn't asking for unity, he's demanding compliance. This isn't about peace or reconciliation, it's about control. The man who caused the fracture now positions himself as the emotional referee. Forgive, forget, and make nice, but only when it suits Ted's calendar. And then there's the lingering Dana/Leslie debacle. Despite his denials, Ted's behavior screams infatuation. Original Ted had the good sense to reject Leslie with a memorable "hell no" when she slithered out at the anniversary party. This version, he's conveniently blind to her chaos, conveniently deaf to her history, and perpetually tilted toward the woman who allegedly ran Kat's best friend off the road, an act Eva is complicit in covering up. Kat sees it all. She has seen it from the start. She called out Eva's duplicity early, and her instincts were right. Eva plays the victim only when there's a male audience, weaponizing tears and tragic stares to win favor while continually undercutting Kat. But of course, Ted chooses to coddle the newcomer while ignoring the daughter who stood by him longer than he ever deserved. And still, Kat doesn't shut him out. She should, but she doesn't. Instead, she endures. At least until Ted decides that her feelings, her pain, and her reality are worth honoring. Until then, the bare minimum would be for him to leave her alone. But it doesn't end with Ted. Enter Dumas, the latest man in Kat's life with a hidden agenda and a career to promote. Naturally, Kat becomes the tool, the stepping stone, the emotional dumping ground. Because why write a strong woman's story when you can rerun the supporting character in a man's journey trope on loop? The writing needs a hard reset. Enough of the emotional labor Kat performs for men who don't deserve it. Enough of her absorbing pain while they circle her like vultures in cardigans and cologne. It's time Kat stops being everyone's emotional mule and unleashes the fury these paper-thin egos have earned 10 times over. As for Ted, he's already broken the so-called bro code daily, so spare us the moral high ground when it comes to Carlton and Nicole. Ted forfeited loyalty the moment he prioritized comfort over accountability. Let Kat go off, let it be loud, and let it be long overdue. Unpopular opinion. The writers don't love Nicole, they're actively ruining her. There's a difference between putting a character through the ringer for the sake of compelling drama and simply dismantling them because the writers have run out of ideas. Unfortunately, Nicole has landed squarely in the latter category. Once one of the show's most thoughtful, layered characters, she's now trapped in a narrative loop that demands hypocrisy over growth, contradiction over consistency. Take her recent whiplash-inducing pivot. She's dispensing warm, understanding advice to Kat about having dinner with Eva, as if Eva isn't the very girl who betrayed her daughter. One has to wonder how Nicole would react if the tables were turned. Would she be so zen if Anita were encouraging her to break bread with Leslie and Ted? Highly doubtful. Yet we're supposed to believe she's suddenly the model of grace and forgiveness. It's not character development, it's character demolition. This is emblematic of a broader issue plaguing the series, a disturbing reliance on what might generously be called the make them worse strategy. When the writers run out of organic storylines, they don't build new arcs. They corrode the characters. Ted, Kat, Naomi, Chelsea, each of them has been through this meat grinder. Once a storyline concludes, rather than transition logically into the next, the character simply becomes erratic, antagonistic, or worse, unrecognizable. The formula is painfully transparent. Resolution followed by aimlessness, then a personality transplant to force conflict where none should exist. Nowhere is this creative bankruptcy more obvious than in the show's obsession with insular family drama, petty skirmishes that fizzle out by the next episode, leaving no lasting consequences. For a series ostensibly about a powerful, affluent dynasty, the stakes remain laughably low. There's no empire to protect, no business to run, no legacy to preserve. We're told the Dupree family has generational wealth, and that Vernon's father developed Fairmount Crest. But that legacy might as well be a Wikipedia footnote. There's no indication of ongoing real estate ventures, no visible empire, no purpose beyond brunches and betrayals. And it's not just the family's fortune that's MIA. These characters allegedly have rich, full careers that could offer fertile ground for storytelling. Ted is a top-tier plastic surgeon. Where are the patients? Naomi is a litigator without a single courtroom. Kat's fashion line had one hit, then disappeared like last season's handbags. Chelsea's kidnapping arc wrapped with zero professional fallout or narrative follow-through. The show could easily interweave personal drama with professional stakes, but instead chooses to mine the shallowest of emotional squabbles over and over again. The tragedy is that Nicole's current nosedive could have been an opportunity. A character reeling from betrayal, both personal and familial, could seek therapy, reflect, evolve. But instead, she parrots baffling platitudes about sweet girls who sleep with their daughter's boyfriends and undermines her own daughter's very real trauma. There's a scene begging to be written. Nicole in therapy, struggling to separate her identity as a mother, a woman, and a therapist. But subtlety and introspection require effort, and evidently another set that the budget won't allow. The cracks in the storytelling aren't just annoying, they're insulting. At some point, viewers have to ask why glaring structural problems weren't addressed in pre-production. The show boasts a sprawling cast and a healthy number of sets. With even modest planning, one could sketch a season of compelling arcs rooted in character, not chaos. Instead, we get the narrative equivalent of wheel spinning, watching once-beloved characters spiral simply because the writers didn't know where else to put them. Nicole, like many others on this show, deserves better. But when conflict trumps coherence, and drama is driven not by character, but by desperation, better is no longer on the table. He broke her, left her, and now he's furious someone else put her back together. Let's talk about that. Let's be clear, whatever affection Bill may still harbor for Dany is entirely eclipsed by his need for control. This isn't love in any noble sense. It's possession dressed up as sentimentality. Bill doesn't miss Dany. He misses being the center of her world. He doesn't want her back. He just doesn't want anyone else to have her. Throughout their marriage, he paraded his narcissism like a badge of honor, betraying Dany repeatedly while basking in the fact that she stayed. Her loyalty wasn't a gift. It was a given in his mind. So when he left her for his mistress, he likely assumed she'd remain suspended in heartbreak, orbiting around his ego as always. The idea that she might heal, move on, or, God forbid, shine in someone else's light is an affront to everything he believes about himself. Now, with Dany in a relationship that appears healthier and more affirming than anything he ever offered, Bill is seething, not because he's suddenly struck by romantic regret, but because someone else dared to repair what he willfully destroyed. Dany's growth is a direct insult to his ego. She was supposed to remain broken, a permanent reminder of his absence. Instead, she's thriving. And worse, she's doing it with Andre, a man half Bill's age and twice the emotional maturity. The irony is breathtaking. Bill, who married his daughter's best friend in a parade of midlife crisis cliches, now clutches his pearls at the audacity of Dany dating a younger man. The hypocrisy is rich, but entirely unsurprising. Misogyny rarely concerns itself with logical consistency. He sees no issue with his May-December marriage, but Dany daring to find happiness outside his shadow? Unacceptable. Even now, 8 months into his marriage to the woman he once cheated with, he still lays claim to Dany in his mind. This isn't about love, it's about entitlement. He had his cake, devoured it, and now throws a tantrum that someone else is offering Dany a better slice. And yet, he dares to be offended. Bill's ego is only now catching up with his actions. Perhaps there's a flicker of remorse buried beneath the bravado. But make no mistake, he's not mourning a lost love. He's mourning the loss of ownership. And for once, he'll have to sit with those feelings the same way Dany sat with hers. Only now, she's finally standing up. Maybe the real villain isn't the daughter who refuses to play house. It's the father who never cleaned up his mess. In the twisted tapestry of tangled family dynamics, few narratives are as gallingly self-serving as the one currently being spun around Ted, Kat, and the ever-divisive Eva. Let's be clear, Kat owes Eva absolutely nothing. Not civility, not sisterhood, and certainly not emotional labor. If Kat doesn't want a relationship with the byproduct of her father's affair, she has every right to opt out, no apology required. And yet, somehow, Ted, perpetual messmaker and accountability dodger, seems hell-bent on fast-tracking a Hallmark reunion. The man who couldn't muster the courage to demand a DNA test before parading Eva around as his long-lost daughter now expects Kat to play happy families. How charming! One would think that a medical degree might equip him with at least a hint of rational skepticism. But alas, here we are. DNA test still pending, trust still shattered. Eva, for her part, hasn't exactly been the picture of humility. From the outset, she's been more interested in stirring the pot than extending an olive branch. She's antagonized Kat, schemed against Nicole, and reveled in drama like it's her birthright. The idea that she's entitled to forgiveness, or even a seat at the table, is laughable. Actions have consequences, even for those wearing a coy smile and batting their lashes like a budget soap opera villain. Then there's Nicole, who divorced Ted for his betrayal, but now inexplicably campaigns for Kat to embrace this dysfunctional detour. The hypocrisy is almost impressive. She couldn't stomach the lie in her own marriage, but somehow Kat is expected to leap over emotional landmines for the sake of healing. If forgiveness is so vital, perhaps Nicole should lead by example. This relentless push to make Kat the villain for setting boundaries is not only tone-deaf, it's manipulative. The wounds are still fresh, the lies are still echoing, and yet the clock on forgiveness is apparently ticking according to Ted's schedule. Much like with Nicole, he makes a few limp-wristed attempts at amends and then grows impatient when peace doesn't arrive neatly wrapped in his preferred time frame. Let's not forget the larger picture. This isn't just about sharing a father, it's about being asked to overlook Eva's targeted attempts to publicly humiliate Kat's mother. It's about pretending that Leslie, the architect of this chaos, isn't still actively working against the Duprees. Ted didn't just cheat. He handed a grenade to a known saboteur and then acts shocked when it explodes. And while we're fantasizing about accountability, wouldn't it be deliciously ironic if Eva turned out not to be Ted's daughter after all? Leslie's reputation is hardly a bastion of credibility. A paternity plot twist is not only plausible, it's overdue. In the end, grown adults can choose who they associate with. If Ted wants to play Father of the Year with Eva, he's welcome to it. But no one gets to demand Kat's smile through betrayal just to make things easier for a man who couldn't even be bothered to question the origins of his surprised daughter. The emotional cleanup from Ted's indiscretions is not Kat's burden to bear, and the insistence that she carry it, quietly, politely, and immediately, is as insulting as it is predictable. The best romantic pairing on this show is between a corrupt cop and a career criminal. And yes, it's perfect. In the chaotic sandbox of BTG, where romance is often stitched together, with the narrative equivalent of duct tape and denial, one pairing emerges with actual purpose: Leslie and Marcel. Yes, a crooked cop and a cunning criminal. At last, a duo that doesn't feel like a bizarre experiment in audience tolerance. Forget the half-baked chemistry of Kat and Tomas. Disregard the aesthetically pleasing but emotionally vacant pairing of Dany and Andre. And certainly, don't get started on the head-scratcher that is Andre and Ashley. Less storyline and more shrug emoji in script form. Leslie and Marcel, on the other hand, make narrative sense. They're morally bankrupt, mutually beneficial, and just twisted enough to work. Not to mention, they actually look like they belong in the same frame. Revolutionary, apparently. This isn't just wishful shipping. From the moment these two shared a scene, it felt like the rare kind of natural pairing the writers didn't have to force-feed the audience. Marcel carries that charmingly retro aura, the kind of man who, once in love, is unabashedly sweet on a woman. Leslie, who's been languishing in increasingly desperate and baffling pursuits, Ted, really, deserves to be the object of that kind of focused, formidable affection. And let's not understate Marcel's most valuable trait. He knows how to remove a problem with minimal fuss and maximum permanence. A handy skill when one's affections are frequently interrupted by pesky obstacles, like, say, other people's marriages. The potential here isn't just romantic, it's thematic. This could be BTG's answer to One Life to Live's Dorian Lord and David Vickers. A pairing as sharp as it is stylish, laced with danger, manipulation, and the kind of layered performances the genre once thrived on. It's the kind of match that respects both the intelligence of the characters and the intelligence of the audience. Of course, not everything is flawless. Leslie, lately, has been more costume party than cat burglar, more caricature than cunning. The wigs, the baby talk, the overworked seductress routine. It's all been a bit much. Once upon a time, she was subtle, strategic, and truly formidable. But glimpses of that woman resurface when she shares the screen with Marcel. The playful glint, the well-timed barbs, the balance of sweetness and scheming, it's all still there, buried beneath the theatrical fluff. This show doesn't need another tragic ingenue pining after an emotionally unavailable lead. It needs a power couple with grit, flair, and just enough darkness to keep things interesting. Leslie and Marcel don't need redemption arcs. They need screen time, and possibly a body count. Let them have each other, and let the rest of the cast prepare for war. This man dragged his mistress to Thanksgiving dinner with his dead son's children. Yes, really. Thanksgiving is traditionally a time for family, unless you're Ted, apparently, while his son and grandchildren endure their first holiday. Without their father, Ted sees no problem dragging his mistress to the dinner table like it's a casual Thursday night. It's not just tone-deaf, it's offensive. One wonders if Ted forgot that his late son shared those grandchildren with Nicole, who might very well swing by for dessert. But decorum, evidently, is not high on Ted's list of concerns. His insistence on wedging his new side family into the grieving household feels less like cluelessness and more like a deliberate campaign to bulldoze boundaries. Ted isn't just inappropriate. He's a selfish, unrepentant manipulator who's never been properly held accountable. And now, there's talk of pairing him with Shanice, one of the rare women on the show with actual self-respect and an allergy to nonsense. Hopefully, this is a setup for a well-earned elevator slap, not a romance arc. Because if this show expects viewers to root for Shanice with the That Man, someone in the writer's room needs a long vacation. Then there's Leslie, or Dana, depending on which identity she's brandishing this week. Her dossier reads like a villain audition for a daytime soap. Multiple aliases, a trunk full of wigs, and a casual habit of attempted murder. Her obsession with Ted has dragged her from state lines back into Fairmount Crest, where she's embedded herself into every corner of his life with the precision of a scheming parasite. For the uninitiated, once upon a time in the DMV, Leslie went by Dana and was busy dismantling Ted's marriage with an affair. Fast forward 2 decades, and she's back, this time with a daughter, Eva, and a mission. She befriends Mona, who works for Ted's wife, Nicole, and Jan, employed by Vanessa, purely to harvest gossip and intel. When Laura, Ted's assistant and collateral damage in Leslie's grand scheme, became an obstacle, Leslie ran her off the road. Not content with mere vehicular assault, she later disguised herself as a nurse and triggered a cardiac event in Laura with potassium to keep her sidelined. And all of this? So Eva could infiltrate Nicole's circle and drop a paternity bomb at an anniversary party. It didn't go exactly to plan. Eva, having second thoughts, was promptly locked in a closet by her own mother to prevent her from backing out. Carlton eventually freed her. Secrets erupted, tears flowed. And Leslie, ever the maternal figure, locked her daughter out of their apartment the same night, leaving her to sleep in her car. Still think Ted's the victim in all this? Leslie, Dana, whatever name she's adopting this week, isn't just unstable. She's dangerous. Her motives are obsessive, her methods criminal, and her moral compass non-existent. The wigs are merely a garnish on a platter of pathology. As for Ted, pairing him with Leslie is poetic in the darkest way possible. 2 characters devoid of accountability, spinning in a tornado of delusion and denial. They deserve each other, if only so the rest of Fairmount Crest can breathe a little easier. And yet, somehow, the narrative insists on shoving these chaotic figures back into respectable storylines, as if their sins are footnotes, not headlines. Someone passed the potassium. This plot needs a jolt.